This time on Building the X set, we're getting the engine block ready for assembly. Okay, so this time what I'm going to be going over in this part of the video series is basically cleaning and protecting the block mating surfaces, getting kind of everything cleaned up and ready for the final assembly. As you can see here, I have my work table. It has been wiped down thoroughly. I got a nice clean work area. I am also not using paper towels to wipe everything down, as I've researched quite a bit and seen that there is quite a bit of lint and dusting that can happen from regular paper towels. Now these are Wipe All. They are a special towel that basically, it's much stronger than a paper towel, but it also does not lint. It doesn't tear near as easy. It's almost like a cloth, but still is a paper towel type product. This is preferable to keep all the foreign material and dust and dirt off the block while you're wiping, so you're not leaving any residues and lint behind in the block. A few products I have here. I have a quart of lacquer thinner for washing all my parts. All my parts have been thoroughly washed. All my rods, my pistons, oil squirters, you name it, have been thoroughly cleaned. But I want to make sure before I actually put the part in to give them a quick wipe with some lacquer thinner on this towel. That will basically help eliminate any dust or anything that's been in the air from getting down into the engine before I insert the part. Another thing, on the recommendation of my machinist, there is some flash rusting on the cylinder bores and the machined surfaces of the block. So taking one of these towels and Marvel Mystery Oil will actually help cut through that flash rust, as well as leave a little bit of a protectant layer behind so that there's no more flash rust happening during the assembly process. Another thing to keep on hand is brake clean, just for spraying off parts, getting things clean, and some brushes. So the first step I'm going to do here is I'm actually going to go ahead and wipe down the cylinder bores, all the mating surfaces on the block, and basically get it all ready to go for assembly. So this is what I'm going to kind of call the final cleaning of the block. Basically, yesterday I spent about, between scraping off some extra gasket materials, silicones, solvent washing the block, pressure washing the block, super cleaning the block, air drying. I probably spent about 3 hours yesterday. This is after the block was already hot tanked and cleaned up professionally. So really the hot tanking is not it is a cleaning process, but it is not a cleaning process for the final assembly. That is up to you or your machinist. But most of the time when you get the engine, I should say probably all the time when you get the engine back from the engine block, it's recommended to actually final clean it yourself, because there is going to be dust, there is going to be debris. You're going to set the engine block down on unclean surfaces, or surfaces that have dust, or things in the air can get into the areas. So basically what this process is this kind of giving a quick, and it's not really even a final cleaning, because you are going to be cleaning it once again before you insert the certain parts into the motor. But what I'm doing here is I'm basically getting this thing even cleaner than it is now. As you can see, for example, I got a pretty clean glove here. My cylinder, after heating in the oven, pressure washing, you can see that flash rust, that dust that is still in those cylinder walls. So that is not clean enough. When it is clean enough, I should be able to pull this towel out and it should look exactly like it did when I went in. That lets you know that we have a clean block. So I'm basically going to be going through, getting all the mating surfaces, getting the cylinder walls here, and then turning the motor over and doing the underside and getting the journals and so forth wiped down with Marvel Mystery Oil as a cleaner and as a protectant from flash rust. As this assembly process isn't going to happen just today, it's going to take me quite a while, as it's not my primary job. It's just something I'm doing for fun on the side. So the first step I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and blow out all these coolant passages. I'm going to go through, and I have not inserted the oil galley plugs yet. I'm going to go through and blow out all the oil galleys as well. For blowing out the oil galleys, I'm going to do it in this position, as the squirter holes all point down, so blowing it out while the block is in the correct orientation. This is the head gasket side of the block. That will allow any of the debris hopefully to fall out of the block. Then once I'm done with that, I will flip it over and I will blow out the coolant passages through the sides here. I have all my freeze plugs, as you can see, in the motor. So those areas are sealed up now. However, from the ends, I can still access that, as well as from the bottom, or the head areas here, I can still access those coolant passages. I'm going to blow those out when the head side of the block is pointing toward the ground. Hopefully any loose debris will fall out those. Not as concerned about debris in the water passages, because they aren't touching internal components of the motor, just the water pump, and then through the whole radiator system there. So I'm going to first do a good blow off just to get any dust or anything that may have accumulated overnight since I painted off of the surface. And then after I do that, I'm going to go through and do a wipe down. And here is through the oil galley. Now I'm going to rotate the engine over. And I'm going to once again go through the oil ports in the crank journal. Now that that's done, it's going to be time to, first I'm going to focus on cleaning the cylinder walls to get them completely clean. Then I'm going to move on to the head gasket and then to the crank journal areas. I'm going to just rub down the entire head gasket surface here real quick. As you can see, there's some more of that flash rusting I was referring to. Then I'm going to wipe down and clean out all the cylinders. And this is probably going to be a few times of this, because as you can see, there's quite a bit of debris from the flash rusting on those cylinders. And my hands are too big to actually do the entire cylinder from this side, so I have to go ahead and do as far as I can and then rotate the block over again just to get the bottom part of the cylinder. See that? Quite a bit of debris still in there. Give this a quick wipe down one more time. Rotate the block back over. And get in the other side of the cylinder bore here, if I can. Yep. I thought my wife was going to make a cameo here in this video to come get her smaller hands than mine down in there, but looks like I can do it. So now I'll flip over to a clean side of the towel once again. You really want to make sure you're getting every square millimeter of that surface, because if you miss just some spots, That's still leaving dirt and debris in your motor. The other thing you want to pay attention to that I'm really trying to do is every, for the crank caps here, I'm even cleaning those out when I am going through and blowing everything dry. I want everything as clean as humanly possible. I don't want any part really untouched. So compressed air is definitely your friend. But if there's any debris in that motor, once the oil pressure is going, it should circulate through pretty well. So as I was told, like I think I said in the last video, you should be able to eat off it literally. You should have no hesitation that if you had to eat off of it, you could. And so that's my goal, and that's what I'm going for. Get the thrust surface here. Okay, so now I'm going to go through, take a little compressed. Because even these towels do still leave some residue on there. So I'm not super concerned with the residue right now, because right before, for example, the crankshaft will be going inserted into this, I will be re-cleaning it. Basically, every time I work on the block, the first step is cleaning it. I'm going to be covering it with a plastic bag at night when I'm not cleaning, or when I'm not working on it, but I want to make sure when I come back the next day there no foreign material has gotten in this area. This is the cylinder. I'm not sure if you can see the cross hatching in the side of the cylinder walls. I'll grab a light here in a minute, but this thing is very wiped down. It looks very clean, but I'm not going to rely on it looks clean. I'm going to rely on, does this paper towel, I keep calling them paper towels, but they're not paper towels, but does this come out looking as white as it went in? So that's really going to be my determining factor on if this area is actually clean or not. Now there is still some marks on the head gasket mating surface area here. I clean them up. I've been told it's not how they look, it's how they feel, and they are extremely smooth. So any of the stuff that's still in there is really just kind of a staining. None of the actual mating areas show any issues, so I got those all clean, all the sealed up areas, so should be good to go there. Now I'm going to take my towel here, and I'm going to do a clean test, I guess I'll call it. Just wipe it around in there. Still residue on the surface, so as clean as that looked, it is not clean yet. So time to go ahead and get in there and do a little more wiping. This is towel number 2. That is after going through all the cylinders, a little bit on this side too. That is still how dirty they were. Even after wiping them down with the oil, they looked extremely clean, but they weren't. So now that I have that done, I'm going to go ahead and blow it off one more time and then do a third towel to test for cleanliness. Okay, towel number 3. Let's see how this does for cleaning test. Wonderful. Not bad, still a little bit. Still a teeny bit on that. And the last cylinder, still a little bit. So I still have a little bit more wiping down and cleaning to do. I put new gloves on, so they were nice and clean. This is towel number 4. Going to do a quick clean test. Perfect. Nothing at all I can see on that one. Now I'm just going to go through all the cylinders. Good as well. Good. Good clean side here. Check cylinder 4. Good. So, nice clean white towel. I'm going to blow it off one more time, just get any loose debris. And then I will flip the block over one more time. And let me blow it off real quick here. Check all these. Still a little bit in the journal areas here. Those wipe down a little more. Okay, go back through and check these again. Still some on there. Basically, after each cleaning step, I am putting a lot of, one thing not to miss, this thrust bearing area here. I'm blowing it off just to make sure that I do not have any lint or dust on the motor. It's looking much better now. Still a little bit, but looking really nice. Get over to a clean side of the towel here. The other thing I can take is some, I will be taking one more time, is some lacquer thinner over these areas when I am doing the actual engine assembly. Until then, I will not be taking that over it. It's looking pretty good. You can see at the beginning there was still some debris in there. It's amazing how as clean as I think it is, dirt just keeps coming off the surface. Look at that. Okay, so I have it clean enough now to my satisfaction for the areas I'm going to be working on. One of those is, let me rotate the engine stand a bit here so you guys can see. The last thing I'm going to be doing in this video is I'm going to be inserting the oil squirters into the four areas. So I'm going to blow this area out real quick here, blow through this passage so the dust and dirt can come out the oil galleys on both sides, just to get it ready for insertion of the oil squirters. So basically the oil squirters are a pretty simple install. I've cleaned these all off with brake clean, and they are ready for insertion into the block. One thing I will do before putting them in is give them a good blow dry, and then I will blow dry this hole as well too. And I have all these laid out, so every part that came out of this engine is going back. Every bolt, every bearing, everything on this engine is going in as it's supposed to and was in there originally. Now the factory torque spec on these is pretty wide. It was, I think that's a 14 millimeter bolt. Let me double check. Yep. I believe it was 105 to 156 inch-pounds. Good thing my torque wrench goes to 156 inch-pounds is the lowest that it goes to. I'm basically doing that 4 more times. So all 4 oil squirters are installed into the block. And so basically the last step, since I'm not going to be actually working on the block for a little while, because I have the rotating assembly stuff to start assembling and finish cleaning up, I want to basically just do a quick, I'm going to do a quick blast off of some air and then cover with a brand new plastic trash bag just to limit the amount of dust and debris getting into the motor. Alright, so that's it for this video, guys. Thanks for watching. I just wanted to show you guys what I'm doing. Like I said, I'm not a professional mechanic. There are parts that I probably am not doing right. I'm just going off of what I've been told from professionals and what I've done some research on and trying to do the best job I can. If you have any comments, please leave them down below for me. Until then, that's it. Next time we're going to work on assembling rods and pistons.